So today we're going to do a PokerTracker 4 hand history review. So what I do here is as I play, I tag hands in real time as review. You can just tag them up here with your little drop down box and hit review as you're playing them. I go back and look at them. So month to date, I've played a little over 2,000 hands. So it's not a super high volume because of the holiday and stuff. Though I didn't get everything in. That being said, we've had good results. We're up almost 400 big blinds in 2,000 hands, so we've had good results. But I did tag 24 hands as review. It could be good, bad, or indifferent. These could be things. It's anything I want to go back and look at myself. Some of them could be pre-flop decisions. So I brought up pre-flop charts here in case I need them. Some of them could be a tough post-flop decision. So I have PokerCruncher here if we need it. So I'm just going to go through these things, kind of talk them through, try to keep them to about a minute a hand or less. Let's see what we got here. So as always, this is PokerTracker 4. I use a lot of HUD stats, more than a lot of you guys that will view this video might have up there. I try to play very exploitatively. Guys at the 10L NL level are making a lot of mistakes. I don't worry too much about balance. If you actually look at my historical stats, that they're relatively balanced for what are considered good numbers at these stakes. But I try to take the exploitative line whenever I can, and here we are. So, all right, first hand we have pocket tens in the small blind. So what's going to happen? So we have a min raise from a very loose player in the low jack, a call, and now to us here. So before I see what I did is I'd absolutely squeezed with this thing here. 64, this guy's calling with all kinds of hands. Granted, there's only a small sample. All kinds of hands up here. Reasonably tight numbers, but he's calling behind this loose player's raise. I'm not expecting that to be value. So the only player here I'd have concern about having a decent hand is this guy, and he just opens too many hands for me not to want to squeeze this. So right now, looking at it, I'm thinking probably about $1.30, $1.40. Let's see what I do. $1.50. All right, must have really wanted this thing heads up. Initial razor jams, fold, and back to me. So right here, I need 33% equity. Let's click in here. Any history on 4-bet range? King, and ace, queen. I'm sorry, kings and ace, king off. He's 4-bet 2 hands that he's shown down. I mean, if we have here, what was it, 10-10. If we give him a range of aces, kings, queens, ace, king, I'll guess we have 46% equity. Go 46. 36. So it's even worse than I thought. So we are getting the correct price to call. If you see here, though, he gets any wider. He does jacks, tens, ace, queen, then you're just getting an even better price. And it's about the same. Interesting. That was the same. So even widening up his range there, you have about the same equity. So we'll see what I did here. You are getting the correct price based on the range we assigned him. I do make the call. Oh, so I'm sorry, he was not all in. So I did make the call, and now it becomes very difficult to play post-flop. Clearly here, there's $1. You have to call that. You're getting 8% equity. You don't love it, especially the king high board. A 6, now you got 2 pairs. He's dragging along with these small bets, and the problem is all these bets are committing. So as you go around, they're just so small. You got to call them. Again, you're calling off here, and the hands he has that he does this with, aces, kings, queens, jacks, and ace, king. And the problem looking at this is all those hands beat you. You're just getting these priced, so if this guy is ever bluffing anything, you're getting a good price. And that's the problem with the stacks being this size. Yeah, kings. So he hit top set. So it's good to know from his 4-bet range. His 4-bet range includes kings. That's not, that's not telling you the bottom of his range or something. I don't know, again, pre-flop, if you can get away from this. I mean, I still here agree with that. I guess looking at this, perhaps based on the pre-flop range, I should have folded the 4-bet. But, if you remember, we had 33% equity. Even in this scenario here, even a tighter scenario, we're taking some of these hands off. You had 36%. So in theory, you made the right call. So certainly you guys can let me know if you have feedback on that, if you would have played that a different way. Shoot me a note, leave a comment, etc. Ace King off. These hands will jump around tables. So you won't always see the same guy. Some of these guys I just kind of know. I know some of their weaknesses and try to exploit. So min open from the first guy. In theory, that could always be aces, kings, or a hidden hand. And we run to that here. So in theory, when these guys limp from the low jack, they could have at some frequency, aces, kings, hands like that. You're blocking most of that. So question here is, you only have 13 hands in the guy, so we won't use that as a decision maker. So you certainly, at the very least, have to call. You need 15% equity. You certainly have that. Question is, do you 4-bet here? This guy calling behind from a limp and a raise, this guy should not be real strong. So if you 4-bet, you probably get him out. If this guy calls, though, you're probably only against strong pocket pairs, so you don't mind flipping with. I guess I'd also point out this guy started with about half a stack. So if I have to get it all in for 50 big blinds with ace king, I'm happy with that too. So I do raise here. I raise big there. I raise big there, presumably just wanting to put him all in and get it all in pre-flop. So I mean, I'm okay with that. If he calls off, I don't have a problem. What did he have? All right, he had jacks. Certainly unfortunate, but I think that's the correct call there, and especially against guys that. Yeah, a 4-bet with jacks is not a smart play on his part. So certainly I don't mind getting against that with ace king. Ace king again, big blind. All right, 3.5 big blind raise from a 33-17 player. Just based on the name, I don't really recognize that guy. So here I do the 4-bet. So this was the guy is opening. His pre-flop raise is 17, so he's opening about 17% of hands. So he's going to open something like, whoop, we'll go that, close enough. Something like that. Ace king off. We'll just give us ace. I don't know if the suits are right, but it doesn't really matter. So, I mean, right there, we're ahead of his equity. Is 60% equity in that scenario against the 17% opening range. So this guy might be opening more suited connectors and less of this junk, but that's probably, hell, that's a 16% range. He's probably a little bit looser. So I like that 3-bet. Made it 4x. I like that. He calls, all right? When he calls, you probably eliminate some of the weaker offsuit hands. You might eliminate some stuff like that. He folds to 3-bet 83% of the time, actually. So there's only, if you hover over, it'll tell you only 6 instances, so not a lot. But I'm going to assume he's folding some of the weaker offsuit stuff. Assume he's folding some of these weaker pairs. I mean, right there, he's continuing with half that range, so let's take some of these off. So that's about a third of the range, a little bit more. But all right, so we're going to assume that's what he's continuing with. So a 9-10-5. Clearly, it did not help us. How does that hit his range? So he has pocket 10s, pocket 9s, ace 10. So if we're ranging him correctly here, we can plug it in. 10. Oh, I'm sorry. 9, 10, 5. Yep. All right. So right there, just run it to flop. Right there, he's missed the flop, and this is a high card 60% of the time. He's a one-pair hand 34% of the time. So what are his one-pair hands here? You can kind of flip over it. So he's over pairs. All right, over pairs, some ace 10. He does have the sets. I mean, he has the sets. He might be calling with the 5s, and then we didn't have that in his range. So it's still a board where he's missing 60% of the time. I want to continue on here for a small sizing. Probably I go like 90 cents. 105 probably kind of got a little smaller and accomplished the same thing here, and we do get a call. All right. We get an ace, so now you have top pair. So now if he had a set, you're still behind. If he has a flush draw, you're ahead. If he had, queens, jacks, even 8s or something these guys will call flop bets with, you are ahead. I'm assuming he's folded his offsuit. He might not fold a lot. I mean, like a king, queen, he folds those c-bets 50% of the time, so he's probably folding some of these offsuit hands. But again, though, he's keeping those heart combos. So right here, I like another bet, particularly as it's a scare card. If nothing else, we hit it, but maybe a 40% pop bet around $2. $2, beautiful. And you get raised. So You can't love that. So what would he raise with? So you can click in here. You can kind of see turn stats. Raise C-bet. I mean 0 for 1. You don't have enough hands. I got to make that determination. Any player notes here that will help. Flop, donk led, second nut, flush draw, fire, turn, river without improving. So it doesn't seem the guy minds firing. So I call here. I mean, you have the flush draw. There are straight draws there. You know, jacks, queens, kings might bet that for. These guys just don't go off and fire. You have top pair. I mean, if he had an ace 10 or an ace 9, that's unfortunate. Certainly hands that he would have continued with. Something with the ace of hearts he continue with. You're getting a price, and I continue. So I call. Now the queen. Certainly, you know, king jack gets there. Jack 8, which is kind of a little bit more unlikely, gets there. All the flush draws missed. If he fires on the river, before I see what he does, I expect to check here. If he fires a small bet, I think you have to call off. If he's going 2/3 pot or more, we probably have a decision on our hands, so I do check. Oh, he fires half pot? Oh, so I don't have a full stack left. I only have 413. So right there is 13 plus 4 is 17 plus 4 is 21. So right now, you know, rough math, you need 22% equity or something to call here. It's a tough one. I mean, these guys donk off, and we'll see what he has here, though. But I think anytime I have top pair, I think I have to call this one off. Yeah, so it's pocket jack. So it's one of those weird hands where he probably got to the turn, got scared, and didn't know how to play it. He probably should have checked behind. You know, and this is one of the things I'm going to stop here, and I'm going to make a note on this guy. Come on. Doesn't want to open? All right. Raised jack when ace hit on turn. So always take notes on guys like that. That is going to be important. So we know we call down a little loose against him in the future. You probably see me call a little too much in some of these scenarios. That being said, I see a lot of weird stuff like this, and I get more right call downs than wrong ones. So, all right, king jack offsuit, not my favorite hand. A fold. Opening that 100% of the time from the button, and we get 3-bet from the small blind. So small blind is a 3-bet range of 7. I have a stat over here: 3-bet versus steals. He is not 3-bet versus a steal in 25 attempts. If I click in here, 3-bet blind versus steals, ace queen off. He seems to check back some top pairs. So it's tough. So let's just look where we are here. It's like a king jack off. Again, my suits might be wrong, but if you give him 10s plus, ace king, ace queen, he might do something like that. He might 3-bet 9s. That's a 4% range. We show him 3-betting 7 overall, so he's probably doing some bluff in there. So let's give him something like that. Maybe add an 8s, a king queen suited. Just speculating here, but we probably don't line up good there. We probably have the 33% equity we need to call. Oh, it's close. It's 32%. So you're spot on with the price you need to call. Being in position, I probably don't fold this. I think I call, and I do call. All right. It could be a 4-bet candidate. He has not been 4-bet in the 406 hands that I have on him. So if he's 3-betting a little bit wide, it's a 4-bet bluff candidate. I don't do a whole lot of that. But let's see where this puts us. So, well, with the flop of him, I'm firing at consistently. I'll tell you that. So he's going to bet 66 cents. Third pot, a little bit less. Man, I just don't think we have any equity here. I think he has so many pairs, even if it's 10s or something, that he should be firing, and then you're drawing to 6 overcards. I don't love it. You could just have aces and you're done, but there I float one. He's c-betting 65%, which is a good number. Yeah, but now, interesting. So after this is a flop that I would fire at every time in a 3-bet pot being him. So I realize that and I call. Then I look. Once he checks the flop, I have to assume he did not hit the. Once he checks the turn, I have to assume he has a pair of jacks or less at best. He didn't have a 4. There's not a lot of 4s in the 3-betting range. He doesn't have, unless he's truly slow playing queens, in which case he probably shouldn't have bet the flop. If he has aces or kings, he continues betting. Jacks or 10s probably don't love this. Pocket 7s or something, I guess, is possible. So once I see that, I fire, 2/3 pot bet on the turn. He calls, which you can't love. So that was not necessarily a mistake. It's a hand at showdown you probably can't win. So yeah, check it back on the river. All right, ace queen. So maybe that's where some of the comments I have is he checks back some top pairs. All right, hey, we learned. We made a note on the guy. Not all these are winners. All right, pocket 7s in the big blind. What happens? Oh, I remember this hand. This is one I actually posted to get some advice on here. So, first things first is you got a loose player. It's a pre-flop raise of 15. This guy here is a 64-12. So, I remember this because I flat call here, and it's certainly a situation where you can squeeze that, and maybe you should. It gives you the initiative, and you should get this guy out of there, especially if he's folding 3 bets 80% of the time. He's calling with all kinds of junk that can't defend against the 3-bet. This guy here, before he started that hand, said this guy likes to fire. This guy likes to bet. C bets a 71, 74, and tightens up a little bit on the river. Maybe he's a little bit more honest there. I remember this hand, and this is a guy that likes to bet. Somebody I'm calling down with probably a little bit wide. So, 2 king 6, flush draw board, a check. He fires half pot, a fold. Only need 25% to continue. If you think about my range, I probably have some decent kings in there. So, the pocket pairs, the 7s, 8, 9, 10s. I probably 3-bet 10s, but some of those hands in the middle there can be call downs, but you still do have a lot of kings. So, but I'm certainly going to call street and reevaluate. So at 10, another overcard, but unless he just literally was betting like a jack 10, king, ace 10 or something, though, it didn't improve him. Could still be behind. Let's see what happens. Oh, man. So this is one where it's a player-dependent read. I read this guy because I played a bunch with him since this. This hand was probably about 10 days ago. This is certainly, in retrospect, a guy that just likes to barrel. I think here within the notes, bets when check to, seems to fold the check raise, saw a triple barrel with air. Here he donk led second pair in the flop and triple barrel. So, I don't think he's not donking. He was the leader. I don't think he's betting a 6 there anyway. But here, he's betting a little over half pot. You need 27% equity to continue. You could certainly map out the minimum defense frequency per street and try to figure this out. But I think for me, against this specific player, it's a call, even though against the general population or a balanced player, it's probably a fold. The 5 didn't help him. There's flush draws that missed. He could have an overpair and have you screwed. He could have a king and have you screwed. Yeah, I remember this. So again, you need 25% equity to call. If we're assuming he's barreling all the missed flush draws, of which he should have plenty. Certainly all the ace high ones. An ace, jack of spades. Maybe someone just naked ace of spades and something he might be barreling. He could have a king. I'm not worried about a 10 being in his range. There's very little that I think bets flop that has a 10 in it. So you're against a king or flush draw or air against a guy that likes to barrel. And I call here, and I remember this outcome. Certainly a hand I wasn't expecting to see. I would have thought he had some spades or a queen jack or something though that had like the spade in it that had an outside straight draw. Certainly surprising, and it's probably from a GTO standpoint not a good call down. That's something that's going to be real player specific that I know this guy. All right, next hand. 7-9 offsuit, not a sexy hand. 35-cent raise. Don't know why I flagged that. So the only thing I would have here is, only thing I'm thinking is I want to look and see if it's a potential squeeze spot. I don't think it is. I mean, I just don't have. I have 3 hands on this guy. I don't. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know why I flagged that. Certainly, you need 23% equity to continue. Do you have that versus 2 random opponents out of position? I don't know. Maybe. But that's a spot where I'm okay folding and trying to pick something better. Queen 3 again. Why did I flag Queen 3? I folded it. Did I want to see something weird somebody else did? Alright, sometimes I fight these hands if I see a weird play by an opponent just so I can go back and note what they did. That was not one of them. Alright. Raise from the button. Tight player. Only 73 hands. Steal a 17. So he's not too wide there. So I have a choice here, a flat call or a 3-bet. He's folded every 3-bet so far. So I don't remember this hand. Only 3 3-bets. Decent 3-bet candidate or a flat call. I actually think probably either is okay. I do flat call there. Probably taking the initiative with the ace blocker on a button raise is a good 3-bet hand. But that's all right. Let's see where we are. So, all right. So it's a hard board for him to hit. I mean, unless you have a flush draw and I have the ace, there's not a lot going on there. So before I even see what happens, this is what I consider like a natural check raise board. There's some backdoors that get you to a wheel draw. You have some showdown value with the ace. He's check raised 1 time so far and did not fold, so he might call and pay off anyway. So let's see what happens. So it's a board I'd be c-betting if I was him. He only c-bets 20% of the time so far. So he's probably pretty honest when he does that. So 30%, a little under half. Oh, do you check raise this or do you call? Considering he's being a pretty honest player so far at the c-bets, he's probably doing that for value. If he has a pair of even jacks or something, though, I doubt he folds to a check raise. So I probably should just flat call here. And I do. All right. 10 does not help us. Check the razor. So now he's betting 2/3 pots. So that certainly screams some value. That brings in, a king jack as a straight draw now that might have fired flop. Certainly it brings in a second flush draw if he had, ace king of clubs. Probably what he should do is check and take the free card, but a lot of guys just fire to that. You're getting, you have 9 hearts left, so you have about 18% equity to hit your hand on the river. You're getting a price of 28%. Can you get, 10% or roughly, 25 cents out of the guy in future value if you hit your hand? I definitely think you can. So I'm going to call here. Hope I call here. All right. Now you hit an ace, so now you have a showdown value hand. But if he was barreling any of those ace-king type hands that we talked about, ooh, he got there. So I hope I fold this because of 38% equity. I don't think an ace with a 3 kicker is going to be doing me any good. Oh, I call. That's probably not good. Well, if I knew he was jamming an ace-9 offsuit there, then I actually think, and he's that wide, then I think all of my play was probably correct. Certainly leave me comments, figure out what you would do here, and we're going to take a chance and notate that. I recommend you guys. Yeah, so some of these notes are from the hands I have gone back and looked at. Jams 1.5x on rivered top pair and 9 kickers. So certainly take notes as you're reviewing your opponent's plays. Yeah, if I knew he was that wide, I probably maybe this is a guy I want to check raise in the future. Particularly, he's firing that with he fired 2 streets with absolutely nothing. So, all right, keep that in mind. Am I frozen up here? Ah, there we are. All right. So crappy time slot. I like that name. Small raise there on the button. I think this is one of the guys who likes to battle like a 2.3x in that sense. Probably some of these tournament guys that come over that just thinks that's a normal open. You see some guys do different sizes here. So I mean, you have a choice here. You can flat call. All right. So we're facing raise first and out of position. Big blind button versus button raise. Let's make this a little bigger. King 10 suited. All right, so they're showing this here as a 3-bet. So I'm going to guess I flat call here. That's my style, but that's certainly something we should be looking at for 3-bet potential in the future. All right. So not a bad flop. We have nothing but a open-ended straight draw. So this guy is folded to check raises 75% of the time. He bets more than his fair share of hands. So certainly this is looking to be a check raise spot for me. I'll tell you that now that I see it. But he checks behind. The guy that c-bets 80% of the time checks behind. Is it a small pair that just missed setting up? Is it the button and he just is crap? I don't know. So the 2 shouldn't help either of us unless he has like an ace 2 or something. But at c-betting 80%, he's c-betting some ace highs. Well, it brings a flush draw. You can certainly represent that. And I probably would barrel a diamond turn, a diamond river. So you have an open-ended straight draw. He folds. Well, that's not really a good stat for that. So I can certainly see a lead here. I check again. I actually think I like that as a lead because, again, you have no showdown value. You could probably... I don't know. An ace isn't. It may be good for him, though, but that makes you your straight. A diamond should be good, or you would barrel a diamond. Do I check raise here? I just flat call. All right. I don't necessarily know that I loved how I played this. And now you're stuck in a situation where he's betting 2/3 pot into a hero call with third pair. I don't put him on diamonds here. I don't think that's going to be a frequent outcome. Any random ace high diamond with a backdoor draw from like a GTO standpoint bet that flop or balance standpoint bet that flop. I should fold here, and I make the call. So you did get there. Interesting line. Second pair in the backdoor, second net flush draw. You would assume would probably bet flop. All right, on to another one. So same guy as last hand, 23-cent open. With the king 8, I'm not going to raise that. There's some value here in potentially squeezing, but he is such a small raise. You're getting such a good price. I don't think you want to do that. This guy, it's only 102 hands, but faced 1 3-bet and did not fold to it. This guy's all over the place. I remember him from future hands. Yeah, I like a flat call there. All right, almost the same scenario as the last hand. So you have flush draw, no equity. You have some additional backdoors, meaning you have queen, 10, king. So certainly, a 9 is good for you. A jack is good for you. It opens up a lot of different straight draws. So you can improve. You can improve the top pair. You can improve without nailing the flush. Going to check to the pre-flop raiser. Actually, might be a board he does a decent amount of checking because it can certainly have some stuff. All right, he bets over the size of the pot. So that screams to me he has a reasonably weak hand or a one-pair hand that he's scared of the number of draws that are out there. If he had a real strong hand, a set, over cards, over pair, I should say, he'd be less concerned. So it might be like an ace-queen type hand that he just wants to protect and take it down now. So I think if I recall this hand correctly, no, I flat call. So based on that analysis, if he's just trying to protect a one-pair hand, that's probably a pretty decent check raise spot. I think I remember in real time just planning on the check raise and seeing that he bet 1.3 pot, almost 1.5 times pot, and froze up that way. But that would probably be a better check raise spot even for the overbet. 4 spades doesn't help me. Shouldn't really help him either. Now it's getting to the point where you're no longer getting a good price to draw. This is a guy that he c-bets 78% of the time on the flop, 38% of the time on the turn. So he gets a little bit more honest. It looks like as the turn comes around, got to be from a 50. All right, 34 attempts. I mean, you go with the stats you got sometimes. This should be a fold. I hope I fold. And I call. All right. Now you got nothing. You missed your flush draw. You didn't take the aggression on either the flop or the turn. Not that the turn was a great check raise spot, but the flop was. Oh, I remember this hand. And he folds. All right. This is a play I like to make when backdoor flushes like that come in. As we had specified on the flop, he probably has a weakish one pair hand, or he wouldn't make a bet that size. He would just let you try to draw. You have 10 Jack Queen with the flush draw out there. So straights got there, flushes got there. If he's really betting and we're putting him on a one pair hand, he can't sustain a large bet like that here in the river. So it's not a play I recommend versus everyone, but it's something I do sometimes in the river. Clearly here this worked. I got a read on the opponent and got through it. So comment on that one. If you guys make this play, let me know. If you don't, that's okay too. Ace-3 offsuit should just be a fold. It is. So let's see. Is there something else in here we liked? I mean, I can get back and figure out how this guy plays a nut flush draw, but flop. I mean, bet, call, bet, call. This is a crying call at that point. Yeah, I mean, I don't think you learn a whole lot from that. To see a guy play enough flush draw and hit it. All right. So this is another hand I remember because I posted this one in the forum. So I have some additional info on here. So brand new player, 3 hands on him, limps. This guy here is, has 200 hands, but he's a 32-24 with a 12% 3-bet. So this is a guy that's certainly a lag and likes to get after it. He raises to 30. So in this situation, I would never raise to 30. It would always be 40. So it's going to be a very good price to call. So you have 2 choices here against, a min raise open and against a limp and a small raise behind. This to me screams as neither of these guys have strong hands. Is a good 3-bet spot. If I recall, I bet, and I think I make it $1 here, and that's just not big enough. I probably, the natural raise there should be 40 cents, and over that would be $1.20, and probably put something on there for the first guy. So probably $1.30 is a better raise amount. So as I recall, he calls. Now he's priced in the call. So that's why I definitely should have made it bigger. That was a mistake. It's also a hand that realizes its equity great in position against a loose range. Flatting was probably better than making a small 3-bet because all I did was inflate the pot and get called against the same hands anyway. So probably an error here. So Jack 8-5 rainbow, a flop that's hard to hit. 9-10 is a draw, 6-7 is a draw. There's not a whole lot past that. So it gets checked to me and I fire a C-bet here, even against 2 players probably every time. Should be $1, $1.10, right in that third, $1.08, weird number, right in that third pot range. So I get a fold, I get a call. So we improve on the turn to a flush draw, and I know because I had looked at further analysis on this. I don't like the way I played this. So he checks. I go ahead and fire, I think, about $2 here, $1.81, another third pot bet, and that's not a good play. So the problem here is, yes, you can get paid. You're going to hit your flush draw on the river like 18% of the time, and yes, you're building a pot, and you can try and build a bigger pot. So when you do hit, a third pot bet is not folding out a jack. A third pot bet is probably not folding out 10s, 9s, especially if they have a club in them at this point in time and they're blocking me. It's just not big enough to fold out those hands. I would have been much better off here jamming to get some fold equity, although I don't like that. But the correct play here is probably just to check, take a free card, and try to make your hand. So that, in retrospect, was not a good play. And here's Here's where you're solving a tricky situation. So now he has just over min check raised me. Well, you need 17% pot odds to call. Like we said, you have 9 club outs. You're getting 18% to hit your flush, 19%, whatever the number is. You're getting the correct direct price. So I think it's unfortunately a spot you need to call. You just put yourself in a crappy position with that small bet. So you have to call. You do not improve. If he bets here, I'm folding. Yeah, I remember this. He checks. Problem is, if you shove here, he's gonna be getting something like better than 3-1. I mean, he needs like 18% equity, and guys will just call that. You just don't have enough equity. You have minimal showdown value. I think you just check down here and just hope. It was Jack 9. I mean, that was not. The open was fine. I mean, he should have been 40 cents. He should have called the flop bet. He should not have check raise turn. I don't really know what he was doing there. Yeah, I don't know. It's a weird call down from him, and now that I see that, I wonder if I could have got him off for something folding turn. But for 18%, these guys do not like to fold. Next hand. All right, Ace 10. So the situation, this guy, it's only 193 hands. Probably something I'm just fine flatting. Let's look at our charts here. So make them a little smaller. Facing raise first in position. So we are in the hijack facing a low jack raise. Hijack versus low jack raise first in. So these charts here, the 6 max charts, have you only 3-betting, never flatting, and perhaps is a mistake on my part, though I do flat some of these hands. It depends on the player. I'm often okay flatting with suited broadways and just trying to. It's a hand that will realize equity great in position. You're going against roughly a 15% range. 15% range. Is that? You have Ace 10 suited. I'll guess against that range. I have right around 50% equity. I think I might even be a favorite. I'll go 52. Small favorite. All right. So I had it flipped. So I was right around the 50% mark, though, but I am a small underdog. Probably no reason to inflate the pot, because if you do 3-bet and get called, he's going to fold out stuff. Clicking all over here. He's going to fold out stuff like that. Probably something like that. Maybe he calls with that, about half of his opening range. So at that point, if you 3-bet and get called, you don't really like it. Your equity is dropping. So all right, I do 3-bet there. I'm not saying that's terrible. Certainly, it's what the charts say. But against a guy that's opening a fairly reasonable range, a flat is probably better. So, and he does call. So you get a reasonable flop, an ace, queen, 8. So you have top pair and a backdoor flush draw. If you flat it with pocket jacks or something, though, pocket 10s, he's not going to like that. He probably has the pairs, the aces, queens, and 8s. He could have set up on you. He might have 4-bet like aces and queens, and it's hard to know, especially within 200 hands on a guy, how he's going to handle like a 4-bet range. In 200 hands, he's made no 3-bets and no 4-bets. Not that he's had a lot of opportunities. But it's probably not a guy that's just jamming random crap in there. So, so what happens? So check. I probably like a range bet here, meaning that we have aces, we have queens, we have ace king, we have ace queen, all within our range. He probably has some of those, but less of them. You have to assume that he would have 4-bet, some frequency of aces, some frequency of queens, some frequency of ace king. So I feel that you have a range advantage and probably another advantage here. So I do like a bet, probably like 80 cents, something like that. Boom. And he calls. So, he could have a king jack. He could have a straight draw. He could have a pocket pair. He could have queens. He could even flat kings or something. Have that. So we certainly could have an ace. You lose to ace queen king. Some guys flat that as a 3-bet. You lose to ace jack, ace queen. There are a lot of aces. Some of these guys will call random suited aces. I mean, we did not assign that to his range. but it's very hard within 200 hands to know how a guy's really correctly structuring his ranges. All right, so 9 of hearts brings a backdoor flush draw. Jack 10, that would have been a gut shot on the flop, although I don't think we assigned that to his range. Yeah, we took that out. Gets there. So let's see what happens. So he checks. I should just check behind here. Be happy to try to get to a cheaper showdown. Hopefully that's what I do. I will note the 10 blocks the inside straight draw there, so the Jack 10. So even though you don't have it in his range, even if Sandy did call with it, it's a partial frequency because you're blocking it. So hopefully I check. Good. All right, not a great river. So a queen, backdoor. Well, hearts gets there. You're beating the other two pairs. I mean, you would lose to ace jack and ace king to just have you out kicked at this point in time, though. What happens? He checks. Question here is, do you go for thin value, or you're just happy to check down and win a 35 big blind pot and probably check down? That's the correct answer. He obviously called the flop with probably, considering the queen pair there, some type of ace. It's unlikely he has hearts, or he would have done something by now. Hopefully I just check. I do. All right. I mean, I guess that's a value in checking because these guys show up with weird hands. He must have had a read on me that I was aggressive and was going to fire that river. I mean, I like my check. I like my play quite a bit. So, all right. If you would have thinly value bet that river, let me know that. I probably don't value bet thin enough in spots like that, but you see guys shows up like hands like this, and if I had got a river check raised, I would have had to fold. So I wonder if he was scared of the flush. Interesting. All right, another hand. Ace king small blind. All right, 3 big blind raise. I don't remember this players. There's only 96 hands, 34-12. So figure, again, we should probably be looking at these guys' stats by position, but at 100 hands, I don't know that it's truly practical. We have an ace. We have a king. So right now, against the 12% range I gave him, I'm going to guess you're ahead of most of it. I'm going to guess you have 58% equity. Boom! Got one right. Damn. Exactly. I'm good. All right. Yeah, I would 3-bet that. I 3-bet ace king, especially from an early position, pretty much every time. I flat sometimes, just for a little deception, but that should be a natural 3-bet to 4 times his raise. Well, now he jams. So I'm guessing that notes a spoiler alert, so I won't talk about it. Well, so right now the math's not going to be quite right. So really, what you're going to call is 962. So what is the correct math? So you would put in 962 plus his 962 plus the money that's already in the pot. No, I'm doing that wrong. So you would put in a total of 1080. He would put in 1080. 10.80 times 2. This would be a little rough, but 2160 plus a big blind there, so 2170 we'll say. So we're going to have to put in 962 divided by 2170. See, 44% to call. I don't think you have it in any scenario, and I have a feeling I flagged this because I called, and that's a mistake. So let's just even give him a wide range. Something like that. 4-bet jam. So that's a pretty wide range, and you're close, but you still don't have the right price. And let's say he tightens up, so it's just queens plus an ace king, and you're probably dropped about 37% equity, something like that, 39. It's a fold. Based on the note, I'm guessing I call, which I do. I don't love that. You don't want to be calling a 4-bets. You want to be 4-betting yourself to have some fold equity. Yeah, so... All right, I mean, he had kings. He had one of the hands that we blocked, but even if he had queens, or even if you put like jacks in here, I mean, 39, you still don't have the right price. So, Yeah, bad call on my part. That's why you review these hands so you can learn from them. All right. Pocket threes, if you go to the charts here, I'm sure they recommend to not open pocket threes from low jack. And, I probably do like what they consider like a mixed frequency that way. Meaning if I feel there's players on the table here that are likely to kind of call off, it's something that I'll raise because if I hit a set, yeah, I can get paid off of it. More times than not, I fold these. So I'm assuming if I flagged it, I opened it, and that's okay. It's not terrible. One thing I see here that I should have noticed and done is you had a guy here that appears to have just paid his way into the hand. Always wait for the big blind. A piece of recommendation there, but I probably should have raised it to 40 cents. I'm certain I was multi-tabling at this time and didn't see that, but that was a mistake because that would have made it easier for him to call, which makes it easier for these guys to call. And you don't mind multi-way action with a small pair because it's either hit a set or get out, but probably not ideal. So we're going three ways. All right, so on Jack 5-5, it is hard for... Oh, I'm sorry, it's two ways. He got out. It's two ways. So in Jack 5-5, the caller being from the big blind, he has more fives than you do. I mean, he'll call with some 6-5, 7-5, ace-5, stuff like that. He'll also call with some big cards, some Queen Jack, Jack 10, Jack 9. So he also calls a lot more junk than that. It's like this guy's big blind range. So big blind, he's only V-pipping 27%, which is probably actually a little tighter than the big blind. What's mine, out of curiosity? TBD, doesn't want to say. I don't know if it's calculating. All right, we're not going to waste time. All right. So certainly he has a lot of hands in this range here that are going to miss on a paired board like this with no draws. I don't mind a C-bet here. Again, probably 25 cents third pot. 26, fine. And he calls. So he could float with overcards here. I mean, floating with like an ace 10 or something, though, I don't think it would be ridiculous. He could have hit a jack. He check raises 8% of the time. So, I mean, I think if he had a 5 or a real strong hand, he might try to get some money in there. But, he'll float kind of wide. A 4 shouldn't improve either of us. Sadly, when you have pocket threes, it's another overcard. So, if some chance he did have 5-4, he boated up. If he had 6-4 and was just trying to play with some backdoor draws or something, though, so be it. So if he checks, I should just check behind here and be happy to get to a cheap showdown. By fire, a third pot bet again. And I don't like that. Problem here is just not folding enough out. If you had aces or kings and wanted these hands to call, you're probably not scared. But with my particular hand, either want to bet big for some protection or just check and try to get to a cheap showdown. And so probably a misplay. He calls. He blocked the straight draw, so he's hard to have ace 3 or 3-6. Check, and yeah, just be happy to check it down. And yeah, pocket eights. I mean, that's something that if you had fired... 2/3 pot. I like the small bet on the flop. That's correct for that board. If you fire 2/3 though, or 2/3 on the turn, certainly you probably might have a chance of folding out the eights. Pocket threes, yeah, could have played that differently. I don't know that he would have folded those even with a bigger bet. I guess in retrospect we saved some money. All right, moving forward. King, queen suited, small blind, fold. All right, a limp from a guy with 2 hands on at the time, 4-handed here. If I raise, this guy's 3-betting 5% of the time, so if I raise, I'm not concerned with being 3-bet off my hand. I'm going to make this probably 50 cents every time. 45, weird number, close enough. Fold, he does a limp call. All right, so when a guy we have no history on limps calls... I gotta be honest, I don't even know what range to assign the guy. He certainly could have an ace. This is probably a board where I want to fire something a little bit bigger, maybe like 55 cents, and fold out anything that is not an ace. If we happen to improve to, a jack or a 10 will give you a straight draw, a diamond will give you a second nut flush draw. If you happen to improve on the turn, so be it. But for the most part, yeah, I mean, you bet once. If he calls, you're not in good shape. Yeah, again, I probably... on this specific scenario, should have bet a little bit bigger. I'm really working on trying to use these third pot size bets. I just don't know if this was the correct one for him. So let me know what you think on the bet sizing. This is something where I'm better off going, 60 cents, 70 cents, or this side. So, all right. So with no reading the guy, he min raises you on the flop. Well, it's not something you see a lot because it's not a standard play. Challenge here is you need 14% equity to continue, and even if you're just trying to, even if he has an ace, even if he has pocket aces, he sets up or something, you probably have that price to draw out. Let's put that in. Let's do worst case scenario here. He has pocket aces that he's trying to slow play. He has that. You have king, queen of diamonds. Board is ace. Was it 8-4? 8-4. I guarantee you have 14% equity. You probably have 35. Oh. All right. But I thought you had more equity than that. All right. Well, you learned. That is a obviously extreme circumstance. Well, my math was off, so glad I did that. So I make the call there, and again, if his range is anything wider than that, where he's including decent aces, something like that. I'm just kind of making up a range, but you certainly, even there, you only have 11%. So, all right. Really, you probably go down to here, at least those for the sets. All right. Even then, that was a bad call. All right. That's okay. Check on turn. Only thing I can assume, and you're gonna get in two hands, is sometimes you just get a vibe that these guys are just messing with you. And I just think I get called too often here. I don't remember this hand or what happens. I don't like the way I played this. Once you called, and essentially once even the turn card hit where you did not improve any potential draws, you should just given up on the hand. I mean, you have some showdown value if the guy was doing it with, I don't know. There's not a lot of draws there. 5-7, 6-8, or 6-7, something like that on the flop. You beat those. I don't like this. He's going to call and he's going to have an ace. All right. So this is when you see me make some of these plays at this level and they work out, I almost feel bad play was rewarded. There's no raised ace high board with king high, so I added that note. Future notes I remember playing with him yesterday. We'll call with just overcards. They'll float. I don't know. It's a weird spot. I mean, when you're results oriented, my call was certainly good, and my bet was great. I probably should have gone bigger. I did not feel when he got to the river that it was real likely for him to have a good ace, I guess. I don't know. Real hard to figure out what some of these guys were doing at this level. Ace 8 of hearts. Same guy as last hand. Might be the next hand after it, actually. It went from 2 to 3. So, I would certainly, it's a hand I don't mind limping behind with. I don't expect to get raised. This guy will raise some, but out of position. You can either limp this or raise over that guy. Certainly, expect him to call and play poorly. So this is probably a raise hand. We don't have enough hands on that guy to really say much. And this guy here does a lot of calling. Also folds a lot to c-bet, so I'm not concerned if he comes along, even if I do raise. So I limp there. I think that's fine. 4 ways. All right. So this is a real good board for us. So we have the nut flush draw, and we have a gut shot. So we have 12 outs to the nuts, presumed nuts. So 7, 8. I mean, like Jack 8 would be better, but anyway. All right. We get a donk lead. This is a guy that I play with him a decent amount, or at least have lately. He's donking a third of the time. So when most hands hit a flop somewhere around 35% of the time. So you see a guy that's donking 32. I generally consider that he's doing that with some value. Question is a call, and it gets to me. Question is it's hard when you have this. This is not a traditional scenario they teach you, so it's hard to know what these guys up here are doing with no experience. This guy here is telling me he has some value. Question here is, do we raise and try to get these guys out of it, or are we just happy calling and taking our equity and moving forward? Probably I'm just happy calling and trying to improve. What do I do here? All right, I do call and try to improve. I don't love that as a raise spot. If you do hit, you want these guys to continue with all their stuff, and you're just giving yourself a better price calling. So I like that. Did not improve. Did not really improve anyone. It's not a card that should have helped anyone unless they had exactly 6-4, I guess. All right. I don't know what they call a flop, but they fold on a 4 there. You're not getting the direct price to call. You're about 18. Well, actually, you are. You have your gut shot still. So you have 12 outs. 12 times 2 is roughly is giving you 24%. Pot odds are 25%. Certainly, you have to expect you get some type of bet off on this guy if on the river if he hits. So I like a call, or if we hit, I should say. So 8, 9, 10, jack. We got nothing. He bets the third pot. Are you good with an ace high 20% of the time? Probably not. Not the way we arrived here. When he donked the flop, we believed he probably had like a one pair of hands, like a 10 or a 9. We think it was value, but just probably marginal value. You could raise and try to get him off of it with the overcard coming again to one of those. That's not a terrible play. Yeah, that's what I do here. If we figure that's what it was, like a 9-10, it's hard for him to have a straight unless we think he was leading with exactly 8-7. In which case, he flopped the straight and should probably jam over my raise here. Which he could. I mean, he could have that, but I think he's more likely to have one pair of hands. So he folds. So I actually think that was a good thing when he figured out, the straight got there. An overcard to what we likely put him on got there. That's probably a good raise. Retrospect, I probably should have even gone a little bit bigger. What price did I give him? I gave him 28% to call. Yeah, probably should have gone to like $4 or something, giving him nice 35% or something that you would have folded out more. But hey, it worked. Tenors. Fold to me. No, folds to Poker God. So this is a guy that's been popping in my games quite a bit lately. I actually think this hand is from yesterday. Guy likes to bet. You might see me call down with some weird stuff against him. If I recall, somewhere throughout the session, he's triple barreling with almost nothing. If you're gonna name yourself Poker God, you might gotta be better than this guy. So, all right. So that's a 3-bet spot for me. We can see what a chart says. Button against cutoff raise. Facing raise first in position. Button versus cutoff. Yep, they have 10s as a 3-bet here for value. The button is when you can start flatting more hands. So I could play as a flat, though. Against this opponent, I know I want to kind of get it in there. He's real deep, so whatever he was doing, I think this is almost immediately when I sat down at the table, but he's real deep. He's 500-something big blinds, 526. Doing something right. Only concern with the 3-bet here is he does have a 4-bet of 11. That is certainly going to be a challenge. If he 4-bets you probably have to fold. All right, so I do 3-bet, which I agree with. He makes the call. All right, so ace 5-2. So what is a lot of his 3-bet calling range there going to be? It's probably going to be pairs, some big cards. Based on the, we can check notes, and some of these notes might be after the fact, but you never know here. Will jam ace king, so maybe we at least discount that from his range because he probably would have 4-bet that. 4-bet range here is jacks, ace king off, ace 7 off. It's hard to know what to make out of that. I mean, if we give ourselves 10s here, what's a reasonable 3-bet calling range for a guy like that? If we figure he's 4-betting the better aces, so maybe he calls something like that, calls like that, maybe like that, that. And, this is an educated guess. If he's opening 19%, folding 40% of the time, so he's continuing a little bit more than that probably. So maybe he continues with a suited connector or two. King Queen off is a hand that we missed. Something like that. So against that range, I mean, you're got to be nicely ahead of the range. You probably have 60% equity against the range. 63, 66 before the flop. Ace 5-2. So once flop comes, Ace 5-2. Again, I might have the suits wrong. I don't think he has that many aces. I think he's missed that flop majority of the time. So let's just deal the flop. I'm guaranteed he missed the flop 60% of the time. I'm guessing that takes me up to... It drops my equity to 52%. Interesting, because he does have some aces that hit it. So, all right. Actually, if you look at it here, because these pairs and a lot of aces in the range that we assigned him, he's hit the board 2/3 of the time with a pair, and a pair is not going to fold. He may fold these in the ace-high board, but, you know, that's what, about 19 combinations of hands from 7s to 10s. He's not going to fold an ace, and certainly not to one bet. So if our range here is correct, we should be checking this board despite having a range advantage. Now, our range has ace-king and stuff in here, which presumably he doesn't. It's just guys don't like to fold top pair. So if say ace-king and he has ace-queen or something, though, he'll call down 3 streets, which is great. Just 10s is not a good hand here. I'd like to check back. I bet, you know, a little more than the third pot, and based on the range that we assigned him, I don't know that that was the correct play. Obviously, in retrospect, and I know more about this guy because I had a couple hundred hands against him yesterday. All right. So, random 3 gets there. If he had ace-3 or something, he boated. He hit the wheel. Not a lot of those, but check. Hopefully here I check behind. Good. 8. Check, and I'm happy just checking down, hopefully. So, all right. I mean, so good for us. I mean, we also ranged him correctly, saying those were in his 3-bet calling range. So as you learn hand reading and stuff like this, that is important. All right, yeah, I don't have a problem with the way I played it or the way he played it. I probably should not have c-bet that flop. I actually, when you come to the flop, and you know, from a balance standpoint, when I'm betting, let's round and say it was half pot, a little bit less. So if it's half pot, he needs to defend with 67% of his range, a little less than that. So he should probably be defending 75%. So I guess instead of folding these pairs, you should be folding your king-queen offsuit, your king-queen suited. I mean, you start with 97 combos. He should probably be folding about 25 combos, get down to 75 or so. If he does something like... I mean, right there, that's leaving him just pairs. He's over folding a little bit there, actually. But if he's calling, that makes sense. So once he calls, you give him that range, you're not in good shape. So your turn and river checks are certainly valid. Cool. I like these voiceovers. Something like this is certainly a big help to me. Gets to the button. We saw this guy earlier. So 27-0. No pre-flop raises yet in 34 hands. I mean, it's hard to get his range like that. I've seen guys like this. I've raised and I've run into aces and stuff, and that's certainly disappointing. All right, but I raise up to about 50 cents every time. 40, I don't know. 50, I should have done it. That's okay. Oh, these guys. So he limps, then he min 3 bets. So it's a guy that's shown no aggression in 34 hands. Hard to know what range that is. Certainly you would want to assign him a strong one. I mean, you're getting 20% equity. You got to put in 30 cents. You're getting the correct implied odds and stuff to try to draw to a set. So I mean, you call here. It's very hard to give him a range. Let's just take a guess on what his range would be. I mean, I have a feeling that some of these guys, I mean, it's just weird, junky hands. I mean, I don't think it's all nuts. I think it's just these weird big card hands they don't know how to play. It might be something kind of like that. I don't know. That's just purely, we're going to make a guess here and see. We'll top that guy in there. We're going to make a guess here and see if we're right. So I do call. All right. That's a good flop for us. So we don't have 8-10 in his range. That would probably be loose to do the 3-bet for. He does have jacks. He does have 9. So while we've crushed this board, there are 2 Granted, 6 combos of hands, there are better sets. Probably with all the draws that are here, this is going to be a very good check raise hand. So hopefully that's how this plays out. So I check. I would check there basically 100% of the time. I don't really do leading. All right, half pot bet. Hopefully I check raise here to something like 240. Okay, I don't like that. I hopefully in 34 hands, it's hard to say. I must have had a read that this guy is likely to kind of donk off. So we'll see what happens. Yeah, but I think there's a natural check raise spot. Yeah, 7-7. Yep. Flop is Jack 9-7. Again, I might have some suits wrong here, but you have 95% equity there. So I mean, what does he have here? He's missed the board half the time. He has, what pairs does he have? One pair. I mean, he's hit some top pairs, some jacks. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, top pairs he only has 15 combos of top pairs, not a ton. All right, maybe I can get him to donk off further. Yeah, I needed to check raise that flop so I could take initiative here because it checked to him, hoping you bet again on the turn, and that did not happen. So right now, the good part is maybe he had an ace-king, a king-queen, the hands that we put in his range here that have now hit a pair and we're likely to call a bet. Flush draw didn't get there. If he had a better set, that's weird. I actually think I remember this hand, and it's an unfortunate result, but you have to bet there. I'm betting big. I'm betting 75% pot or so. Just hoping that he has some kind of hand, maybe a king jack, a jack nine, to something that for some reason he checks and does that. And I get min raised on the river. So if we go with the assumption, I remember this hand, so I'll try to be unbiased. If we go with the assumption that guys are never raising on the river as a bluff, what value hands do I lose to? Would he have played pocket jacks in this way? Probably not. He probably would have bet turn, especially as the turn card didn't approve someone. Would he bet pocket nines in this way? Again, probably not, especially considering there were draws out there he'd want to get us away from. So the only value hand that we lose to here is the 3 combinations of pocket kings that were in his limp re-raise range. It is in the range that we assigned him initially. I believe here I even raised to get the other 14 cents in the pot, just assuming that I am crushing him. Yep, and an unfortunate result. Hand reading is challenging in some of these levels because it's hard for him to, guys like us wouldn't play hands in this way. It's hard to put him on kings the way this played out. Hey, I mean, thankfully, thankfully he only started with 60 big blinds. I probably would have gotten for even more. So, had I check raised the flop, does that change anything? I mean, I think we probably still get stacks in. Yeah, I don't know. If he runs out to the king, you can't change that. I don't like the way I played it. I really don't like the way he played it. And certainly, once you get to the river, you're happy to get all the money in with that hand, and there's not much you can do there. All right, Poker God raised to 30. Let's see what the charts say about this. So this is one of the ones it's a weird combination. It's a weird spot. It's not a hand that you really want to call. It's not a hand that you always want to be 3-betting here. So they're actually saying King Jack off here is a fold. So I call there, and I don't like that. I think that's probably the weakest of the 3 options. If you're going to 3-bet it, I'm fine against that, against a 17% range. Let's look at that quick. 17% range. King Jack. We'll do it that way. I'll guess against that range, probably pretty close to 50%. I'll say you're a small dog at 48. All right, bigger dog, because when he gives him that range, you're getting him all those pairs that have equity on you. That's not a perfect range either, but all right. So calling in position as an underdog is still not a good idea. So I do like that either there's a 3-bet or a fold. So that was probably an error. All right. Well, so you had a call on the big blind. You had top pair, second kicker on a very draw heavy board. Obviously, flush draws might barrel, queen might barrel. You have a top pair and a gut shot, I should say. But certainly, if somebody had ace queen, which would be the opening person's range, you would lose to that. Or I'm sorry, ace king, you would lose to if a queen came, which would certainly be in Poker God's here's range. This guy here, he could have some random 2 pairs. He could probably not a set. It's hard to tell from that guy. I would squeeze 9s or something there. That doesn't mean he does. So let's see what happens here. So he bets 2/3 pot. It's a situation where, we don't love the pre-flop call, and we put ourselves in a less than ideal situation. His range here would have all the sets. You have 10-9, Jack-10, some Jack-9, so you'd have 2 pairs. He has queens, jacks, kings, aces. We don't have a diamond, so certainly he can have ace-high diamond draws. He has probably some ace-jack in his range that are beating you. So this is why you get yourself in a tough situation by playing this hand the way that we did. This is a good learning lesson. I don't know what I do here. So I just flat call, and I don't know. You guys give me an opinion what it is. With the top pair and a gut shot, I mean, this is a fairly marginal made hand on that board, so I guess it's just a call spot. I do think if we raise, though, if we couldn't represent like a queen, I mean, if you represent a queen and a king comes, you can barrel because then at least you got 2 pair. Yeah. All right, that's how it played out. So big blind folds. I would guess I have more diamond draws in my range because I'm calling behind with like ace-4 of diamonds, ace-5 of diamonds. I mean, I probably 3-bet those at some frequency and stuff though. This should be in his opening range, and then maybe in his barrel range there too. So I guess he has a fair amount as well. So now he checks. Now, based on the way this is played out, who is that card better for? So if he checks, he did not hit diamonds, unless he's trying to slow play, and good for him. That is probably a better card for me, because calling behind on the flop with diamonds is a reasonable path. I wonder if I don't try to bet like $1.80 here and get him off his hand. I check behind. All right. And now that he bets that, all right. I mean, I guess when you look at it here, when you have top pair, second quick kicker on a very draw-heavy board, you're happy just calling a small flop bet. When an obvious draw completes in the turn, it's probably not worth bluffing it. I've hit that spot with a couple guys that I think that will fold. So probably the check there was correct. Then on the river, am I good there 29% of the time with top pair, second kicker? I don't know. It's close. Certainly, if he could have 2 pair combos and stuff, then it's a board that it certainly hits any range heavy. I don't know. Perhaps it is a fold. You guys let me know. Again, I'm not agreeing with the pre-flop play necessarily. I don't like it, but based on how we arrived to the river, is that something you call or is that something you let go? Right? Don't see a lot of 10-7. I don't know why I flagged that one. All right. Don't know why I flagged that. All right. Limp. I hope I raise this. I mean, offsuit hands like this, though, generally are going to play better heads up. I actually feel I have decent reads on these 2 guys just because there's people I've seen in my games recently quite a bit. If you make a good hand, both of these guys like betting. This guy will fire 3 trees with air. This guy will fire 3 trees with air, at least on occasion. Hopefully I raise to 50. I check. All right. All right. I mean, here's the problem. I mean, you certainly have a very wide range. You have diamond combos in there. Probably not too many ace-high diamond combos because I might have raised those on the flop. He's going to donk lead. And how often is this guy donking? 36% of the time. So, again, he's probably an honest donker, meaning he'd be honest donker. He's probably hit some value. He's not just airballing it. So I call a street. So I'm probably just happy checking down at that point in time. Yeah, that was not a good turn bet. So when the turn comes in and the 4 flush gets there, what would he bet on the flop that didn't have a diamond in it? He'd have to. Yeah, I can't think of many hands that he would bet on the flop that don't have a diamond in them. I mean, there's not a lot of 2 pairs. I mean, there's some king 9 you can certainly have. You can have the sets, the 6s and the 9s. Even those on a 4 flush board might not calls. I mean, you get some hands to fold when you bet that, but I don't like it. I just don't think your hand's strong enough. There's just so many random diamonds. A random 8 will call. I mean, 8 has you in bad shape. So at least you have the good sense to check back the river. All right. So I mean, I guess his donk makes some sense. 2 pairs on that board. I do wonder though. Well, yeah, based on what I saw him call with, I actually don't mind. Again, it's being results oriented. I don't mind that turn bet. I wonder how big did we make our turn bet? More than a half pot, 60%. I wonder if he had, yeah, if he had a real good flush. Well, we saw him play a flush passively a minute ago. I don't know. Give me your thoughts on this one, guys. I mean, especially looking at his specific hand, I think this is a very good bet. Would you have followed it up on the river with another barrel? I think if you fire the turn, you probably have to fire the river. Yeah, unfortunate. Did we skip one? Nope. How many hands we got left? All right, 2 more, so we're going to fire through these. Rockets. So how it gets to me. So this is interesting. So this guy does not steal a ton. He's only stealing 19% in 800 hands. So he's stealing a pretty strong range. Occasionally I will flat aces in a spot like this. Once the small blind 3 bets, he has a wide 3 bet and does not like to fold the 4 bets. I mean, he's only folding 29% of the time so far. I think is a mandatory 4 bet here for value. I think he folds regardless. I mean, most of the range and stuff. Though I just think he calls a 4 bet wider than he probably should. So hopefully I made this about 350, 345, exactly 3 times. I think that's fine. He calls. Or I'm sorry, he folds. Poker God calls. All right, not a good board for anybody. Anybody in a 3-bet pot, really. I guess at some frequency he probably calls my 3-bet with 7s. I'm sorry, 4-bet. He's not going to call a 4-bet with 3 6s or 7s. I hope he doesn't. For his sake. Well, I hope for my sake he does. I guess for his sake, I hope not. I think on this board you bet small. Maybe you bet 225 or something though, just hoping he has queens, jacks, 10s, 9s, 8s, and can give you some value. 230, perfect, and he does call. All right. So not the card you wanted to see. Any jams. I remember this hand. I guess in retrospect, the thing here is there's 2 possibilities. Is that he actually randomly happened to call you with ace something of spades and hit it, ace king of spades in the 4-bet pot, ace queen of spades in the 4-bet pot. Probably if he's ranging us correctly, our hand is going to look incredibly overpair heavy. We could have ace king of spades. He's really can calling a 4-bet as well. He's 3-betting 11%, so once we do it, he has to have a fairly wide range. He's not folding to the 4-bet, so he's pretty wide here. I remember this hand because this was yesterday. I mean, pocket tens are certainly in his range. They would have probably check called the flop. Question is, are you good 23% of the time? And I don't know. I don't know the correct mathematical answer to that. We could certainly get in PokerCruncher and range the guy, but against a player that I think is being overly aggressive, I do call down in a spot like this. So here's a point for you guys. Tell me, do you call here, or is this sign of aggression just too much and you just fold? I believe I make the call. Yeah, I mean that's why you call down against some of these guys that just spaz out with random junk here. So he probably should have folded. He should not have 3-bet. I know the 3-bet actually makes some sense against the button open. I can see that he should not have called a 4-bet. He should have folded. He should not have called my C-bet. He should have folded if he had ranged me correctly. I guess once you get to that turn the way he did, and you have a second nut flush draw and nothing else, you might as well represent it. I guess once you get there, I don't hate the play, but that was not well done by him. So, and our last hand of the day here, Jack 9 of clubs, open, flat call from a guy that flat calls a lot. Going 4 ways. Never love that. All right. So who do we got here? So we're playing. This guy loves to bet. These guys. This guy loves to just call. This guy here is one of the spazzes that I don't have a lot of info on. So, check. A donk for almost half pot. So one thing I click in here and I see a 39% donk. So when you see when the donk number starts increasing, that means this guy's starting to do it with more and more air. 38% means he's probably being fairly truthful, meaning he's doing it with at least some type of value, a pair or better, 2 pairs, draws, sets. So he's probably doing it with some value and not too many bluffs. If you see some of these guys that are donking 50%, they're just doing that with too much air, and that's going to be a problem for you. But a problem for them, you just raise them. Yeah, so it's a choice here on a board like this. It's obviously a draw-heavy board. You have a marginal made hand, meaning a 9, and a jack kicker is marginal made. Based on the fact you have top, this guy likes to bet and will bet with worse stuff. I don't mind a raise, and I think that's what I do here, but probably just flat calling and letting him donk into you is the better play. Also, I don't like the sizing of that. If this guy is liking to call with weak hands, make it a little bit bigger. At least get some fold equity out of it. You're making exactly 3x. I don't know. I don't love it. I should have gone probably about $1.90. So here's the problem, is then you get a call here from this guy, and now that guy's called, and so that plan did not work. So I was probably better off with that 9 just flat calling, letting this guy continue to bet with something that might be less valuable in our hand, and certainly give ourselves a chance to improve. We are not drawing to the nuts. I should also point that out. You're not drawing to an ace-high flush draw. If you had ace 9 of clubs, you'd be in much better shape here. You'd be happier. So they check to you on the turn. So you've not improved. Probably once I get 2 calls there, your single 9 is probably not good. They could have ace 9, king 9, queen 9. That might call that. Or they have a better flush draw than you. So if that thing hits, you at least want to conserve some money because you will have to call if they do a decent river bet. Yeah, this should be a check. Keep your marginal value and just hope you improve. So I do not like this play. I do not like how we how we did that one. Anyway, call, family pot. Well, you miss your flush draw. You have a marginal top pair. Hopefully you check this thing down. You do. Yeah, so I mean, we'll note he donked with a straight draw and he played aces poorly. So some good player notes. So All right, guys, this was a good session. Thank you for staying with me and review it. So certainly leave me a comment or shoot me a note or something, though, if you have any thoughts on how you played these hands and how you would have done this differently. Have a good day and good luck in your games.